Hi everyone, welcome to another Scryfall Shenanigans video. So in this video we, as you can see by the title, are going to be taking a look at alternate win conditions. And the alternate win conditions I'm talking about here is ones that are related to cards. So that's where in Scryfall they're tagged up as being, as you can see here, alternate win conditions. And I'm going to do the thing I've done in other episodes like this, where we'll go through year on year and look at, for a given year, how many cards that meet that criteria were released, talk a little bit about the cards, maybe look a little bit more about the artwork in this video, so I'll make sure the artwork's nice and large for that. And we won't go down many side quests, I don't think, but you know how these episodes can sort of pan out. So yeah, so the other thing is I'm only going to be, like I usually do, we'll just be looking at the first time the card was printed. So we're not going to be looking at reprints except where they're more recent cards. And as you probably know on Scryfall, it'll show you sort of the alternate artwork alongside the regular artwork as we get to newer sets. So just so you're prepared for that. Before we dive in, just a bit of a preamble. I thought it was an interesting thing for me to sort of share, and for anybody that plays Magic to think about. You know, I find it fascinating, like as you learn the game, you know, and you get deeper, you sort of learn about these. I wouldn't, you know, obviously you become aware that, yeah, you've got the basic rules of the game, and then beyond that, you know, obviously it becomes you become aware that, yeah, the rules can actually change based on certain cards. So when you start learning Magic, you become aware of ways that you can lose the game related to the state of the game outside of any additional game changes due to what's printed on the rules text of certain cards. So you sort of start in that position. So, you know, the usual thing, like, okay, you find out that if your life total goes down to 0, you know, what the implications of that are within the game. And then maybe you find out that, oh yeah, you know, if you draw on an empty library, what happens then? So those sort of things, they're the sort of things I'm thinking about. Then maybe depending on where in Magic you got into playing, you might have had a set where poison counters were a thing. So you might understand that with poison, there's a slightly different, there's a set of rules about, you know, how many poison counters can you accrue before, again, you lose the game. And then if you play Commander, you might get introduced to things like Commander damage, that sort of thing. So yeah, so there's all these different things that you learn as you're, you know, learning the game. Then there's some things that kick in based on certain sets you become aware of. And, you know, to a great degree, alternate win conditions are one of those things, because depending on what format you're playing, you're going to be exposed to various cards where alternate win conditions, where it's an alternate win condition due to what's on the cards, comes up. So there are 76 cards in Magic, excluding any reprints of those cards, where they are tagged in Scryfall as having alternate win conditions. If we look at how that sort of compares, or how that's reflected in something like the EDHRec ranking, what sort of bubbles up to the top. We have EDHRec Reservoir, so for the cast, whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Pay 50 life, EDHRec Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player. So that's interesting because it's tagged up as an all-win condition, although it doesn't say that it's got, you know, you lose the game. But I'm assuming it's done because losing 50 life is such a major thing, sorry, doing 50 damage to someone is such a major thing that, you know, that would cause them to lose the game. So it's interesting that that's top of the pile. So you might see some other ones that where the effect on the board state is so great that, yeah, it's going to just cause a person to lose the game, or you know, has a very high potential to do that. Now, you see other cards where specifically, and these are most of the cards that I was thinking of when I was thinking of putting this episode together, is ones where it specifically says, you know, under these conditions you win the game. So it's going to be interesting to see how many other cards we see where it's, you know, the effect on the board state is so dramatic that you win the game, but it doesn't actually say here you win the game. It's just the effect has that implication most of the time. Or other ones where it does specifically say, oh yeah, you win the game. Now this one is interesting because this one, you know, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. So that's a life one, where, yeah, there's a direct reference to that. So if we look here and go into EDHRec ranking, so 4% of decks on EDHRec play this card. Price-wise, I will do it this way because it's a bit easier to see. So, in and of themselves, alternate win condition cards don't seem egregiously expensive in that there aren't a lot of them over, say, $20. There's in fact just two. Princess Twilight Sparkle or Top Deck Dolls. Now, of course, there could be other versions of this that are more expensive, but the point is you can acquire these, you know, fairly easily. Now, it's interesting to see like some of the older cards, you know, up here. So you've got things like Goblin Bomb, which is $12. Now this is another one, if you look at this, so let's look at the wording on this quickly. During your upkeep, you may choose to flip a coin. Target opponent calls heads or tails while the coin is in the air. If the flip ends up in your favour, put a fuse counter on Goblin Bomb. Otherwise, remove a fuse counter from Goblin Bomb. Remove 5 fuse counters from Goblin Bomb. Sacrifice Goblin Bomb. Goblin Bomb deals 20 damage to target creature. So that's obviously a massive amount of damage. Doesn't say win the game on it, but again, this effect. So it's going to be cool, I think, as we go through. I just decided to do this. I thought, yeah, I want to do alternate win conditions, but I didn't think of how they might manifest themselves on the card and how that would link to the actual tag itself. So it's always cool with that to see this. So let's make this a little bit bigger, because I'm not planning, not planning on going down too many side quests, but you never know. So I want to focus a little bit on the aesthetic here, I think. So let me just see the best way to do this. That might be a bit too big if I'm sure. Yeah, that's probably going to be the best for me having to modify up here. So 1993, first year of Magic. Got 2 cards. Demonic Attorney, which is actually an anti-card, so if you check it out, you'll find that, yeah, it's banned in the Eternal formats where it would be playable. And then we have this Proposal card, which is an interesting card. So Demonic Attorney has, if an opponent doesn't concede the game immediately, each player must ante an additional card from the top of his or her library. Remove this card from your deck before playing it if you're not playing for ante. So, yeah, you've got a choice there. Either you concede or you ante an additional card. Then we have Proposal. So this was a special card. It allows Richard to propose marriage to Lily. If the proposal is accepted, both players win. Mix the cards in play, both libraries and both graveyards as a shared deck. Okay, so moving on to 94. Nothing in 94. Nothing in 94. What about 95? Amulet of Quaz. This is there we go. So remove it from the game. Oh, sorry. Oh, and there's another anti-card. If you win that flip, the player loses a game. If you lose the flip, you lose the game. Activate only during your upkeep. Target opponent may ante the top card. So again, it's sort of tied to ante. So if you ante the top card, then you don't get in a position where you could win or lose the game. Okay. Nothing from 96. 97 we have Goblin Bomb, which we saw a moment ago. So this is one that wins because under certain conditions, there's a high probability that the effect is going to be so great that you win the game, even though it doesn't have win specifically on the card. So 98. The cheese stands alone. When you control no permanents other than the cheese stands alone and have no cards in hand, you win the game. So this is from Unglued. Nothing from 99. So into 2000. Okay. So Celestial Converge. So we're out of the era of well out of the era of anti now. So we shouldn't see that come up again. I don't think so. So 2 and 2 white, Celestial Converge. So it comes into play with 7 omen counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an omen counter from Celestial Converge. If there are no omen counters on Celestial Converge, the player with the highest life total wins the game. If 2 or more players are tied for the highest life total, the game is a draw. And then we got Coalition Victory, which is a Woobo card. You win the game if you control a land of each basic land type and a creature of each colour. Now, was this reprint? So it was reprinted for Time Spiral and also the list. Okay. Battle of Wits, yeah. 3 and 2 blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 200 more cards in your library, you win the game. So, yeah, some of these cards will have a namesake deck, and there is a Battle of Wits deck, and so yeah, the idea is that you basically fill your library with a ridiculous amount of cards. And then you basically try and find ways to get the Battle of Wits to ways in which you can manage to keep your library well stocked, but also have ways of tutoring for Battle of Wits. Chance encounter 2 and 2 red. So we got 3 and 2 blue, 2 and 2 red. Enchantment. Whenever you win a coin flip, put a luck counter on chance encounter at the beginning of your upkeep. If chance encounter has 10 or more luck counters on it, you win the game. So we've got some coin flip stuff going on here. So Mortal Kombat, Test of Endurance and Epic Struggle. This one, Mortal Kombat, 20 more creature cards in your graveyard, you win the game. Test of Endurance, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 50 or more life, you win the game. An Epic Struggle, beginning of upkeep, if you control 20 or more creatures, you win the game. So of course we could, if we wanted to, and I'm going to leave this to everybody out there, but it's obviously interesting to go down and see, say on EDHRec or Cube Cobra, what the synergies actually are with these cards. Like, how can you, get them into play, or how do you leverage that ability? So clearly, there you want to find ways in which you're going to have a ton of creature cards in your graveyard. So. And of course the other thing here is you want to check out the rules text quite a bit for some of these, just to make sure you really understand when this is going to happen. We've got Test of Endurance, so yeah, 50 or more life, and Epic Struggle, which is 20 or more creatures. So that one, if you control them, that one's in the graveyard. So that's interesting, a sort of, black-green deck that has both of those in them. Play around with some stuff there. I'm trying to think of that card that puts a whole ton of creatures into play, because this just cares about creatures, doesn't care if there's things like tokens or stuff like that. So yeah, be interesting in a token deck. Phage. Yeah, this was, I'm just wondering, like, when was I first exposed to alternate wind conditions? And it might be 10th edition, but I can't remember if I ever pulled a phage. It's also in Conspiracy. So let's have a look at the text here, the rules text here, this side. It doesn't look, it's probably just been reworded in the modern format for the way stuff is worded now. So when it enters, if you didn't cast it from your hand, you lose the game. Okay. So it's not going to let you, there's not many, so you can't sort of, put it in your graveyard, reanimate it. Whenever phage deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature, can't be regenerated. Whenever phage to a player, that player loses the game. So yeah, that's pretty dramatic. But yeah, this is obviously trying to keep it under control. Yeah, and it's and of course remember here. So this is interesting. Legendary creature. So here it's a creature minion legend. Yep, so legions. Oh, we have that style one as well. I'm trying to remember if I have one of these. I might do. I'll have to have a look. Yeah, I can't even say that. Haitusku. Second right. If a target player has exactly 10 life, it's 10 damage to that player. So that's another card where we've got quite a dramatic shift in life. Six, nothing. 2007. Oh, Barren Glory. Okay. Beginning of your upkeep, if you control no permanents other than Barren Glory and have no cards in hand, you win the game. There we go. So you see a lot of these where it's sort of getting into quite a tricky situation in the game. So you got no permanents other than this card, and you have no cards. So like, how would you find a way to get your board state, get the game state to that situation? and not have this blown up at an inopportune moment. So yeah, timing is everything. Oh yeah, Helix Pinnacle. Love the artwork on this. I'm trying to remember if I have one of these or not. So I did open some Eventide packs, only about, what was it, 10 I think. So it has Shroud on it, so it can't be the target spells or abilities. X per X tower counters on Helix Pinnacle. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 100 or more tower counters on Helix Pinnacle, you win the game. So another one, it's interesting to see how, you know, the ways of... because you can't target the card. Because it has Shroud. So, you know, are there ways which don't target the card, which allow you to put extra counters on that? If not, and there's no other ways to put counters on outside of its ability, then yeah, you're basically looking for a deck where you're going to be generating a ton of mana. But, you know, it's green cards, you're in green, so I think you might be covered. Oh, yeah. Felidar Sovereign. You can see why this is, you know, so useful in Commander. It is 4 and 2 white to cast. So, you know, you'd obviously have to make sure that your deck is keeping up your life total from the starting life total. But, yeah. Vigilance, lifelink. Begin your upkeep. If you have 40 or more life, you win the game. Well as area, red, green, white. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. If you control a creature with power 5 or greater, you may gain 10 life. If you control a creature, you win the game. Then you win the game. If you control a creature with power 20 or greater. Interesting. So there's several different sort of phases there in some ways. Oh, look. Is that supposed to be, oh God, what's the name of that card? Progenitors? Near-death experience. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 1 life, you win the game. So you may see some more of these where, you know, if you have exactly this, and we've seen other ones like that, if you have exactly something. So it could be life, could be a certain number of creatures. Yeah. Yeah. Rise of the Eldrazi. It's also From the Vault lore as well. Oh, Laboratory Maniac. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. So that's interesting. So you're winning the game just before you would lose the game if you draw a card on a empty library. If for some reason you can't win the game because your opponent has an Angel's Grace this turn, for example, you won't lose for having tried to draw a card from the library with no cards in it. The draw was still replaced. So there could be some interesting interactions there with other cards. So obviously that's the other thing, like, are there other cards in play which you know, contradict that particular change of rule? So how do you deal with that? And there's like a whole order thing as well, which I don't think we're going to go into. Oh, Vraska. So this is a Planeswalker. Yeah, so this is this assassin thing, isn't it? I think. Turn you. So whenever a creature deals combat, so destroy that creature. Destroy target non-land permanent. -7. Put 3/1/1 black assassin creature tokens onto the battlefield. This creature deals combat. That player loses the game. Azor's Elecutors. 3 white blue hybrid. 3/5. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a filibuster counter on Azor's Elecutors. There's 5 or more filibuster counter. You win the game. Whenever a source deals damage to you, remove a filibuster counter. Yeah, Figured it's got to have a way of depleting those, because that would just be too good. Hellgate Tyrant. If you control 20 more artifacts, you win the game at the beginning of your upkeep. By a Visionary, at the beginning of the end step, if you control 4 or more creatures named by a Visionary, you win the game. So we might see some others of these where, if you have a certain number of copies of a card, you win the game. And there's Maze's End, so 10 or more gates. $2014 nothing, 2015 nothing, 2016 okay. Hedron alignment. What's the win condition here? And if you do, you win the game if you own a card named Hedron alignment in exile, in your hand, in your graveyard, and on the battlefield. Okay, so that's slightly more complicated. Triskaidekaphobia. This is the 13 life thing. So exactly loses the game, then each player gains 1 life. Each player with exactly 13 life loses a game, then each player loses 1 life. So yes, this modal enchantment. And then there's EDHRec Reservoir, which we had seen already when we went through the EDHRec ranking list. So what have we got here? Oh, Door to Nothingness. Bit about two-headed giant there as well. Okay, what do we got? Mechanised production. So what's this one? If you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, you win the game. Because you're here, you see at the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of enchanted artifacts. So that's how you're doing that. Approach of the Second Sun. If Approach of the Second Sun was cast from your hand, and you've cast another spell named Approach of the Second Sun this game, you win the game. Otherwise, put Approach of the Second Sun into its owner's library, 7th from the top, and you gain 7 life. Now, of course, remember, with some of these win conditions, the circumstances are such that it's, you wouldn't really work in Commander, but this does actually work in Commander if you've correctly constructed your deck. Because if the spell was cast from your hand and you've cast another spell named Approach of the Second Sun this game, you win the game. So you could cast it, find a way of getting it back into your hand after it's been cast, and then recast it before. And you cast it again. So you could cast the same copy twice. And it says as long as you do it in the same game. So yeah. And you're putting it 7th from the top. So, the spell was cast from your hand, and you've cast another spell named Approach of the Second Sun this game. You win the game. Otherwise, put Approach of the Second Sun into its owner's library, 7th from the top, and you gain 7 life. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, create a colourless treasure artifact token with tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana. If you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. This is a uncard. 100 or more luck counters, you win the game. Baron 1 counts, another uncard. Doom counter. Destroy target player. Okay. So using doom counters to get rid of your opponent. So you can see we're getting a lot more now. There's an emblem here as well. we've got an emblem for Vraska. So yeah, I'm going to do is touch whenever this creature deals damage to the opponent. That player loses the game. So on the ultimate, Lineana's contracts 4 or more demons with different names, you win the game. So you can see as well, some of this worded is, it says, oh, an opponent loses the game, or it could be an opponent wins the game. And of course, if you're playing in a multiplayer environment, then this wouldn't, make you win straight away. Just get rid of your opponents. So again, a bit of a delayed win there. But this one, yeah, if you've got 4 more demons with different names, you win the game. Atrata the Silencer can't be blocked. Yeah, if they own 3 or more exiled cards with hit counters on them, shows it. So that was in the guild kit. So I'm just trying to see if any of these are banned in Commander as well. They look like them predictably might be. Another Vraska. So yeah, there's the emblem for that one. Okay, so 7 here. So we're seeing a lot more now in per year. So Simic Ascendancy from Ravnica. 20 more growth counters on it. You win the game. Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Draw 7 cards. If the library has no cards in it, you win the game. Nicol Bolas, Dragon God. An opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or planeswalker loses the game. Mirrodin Besieged. It's a modal enchantment, and the win bit is on the Phyrexian mode. Beginning of the end of your step, at the beginning of your end step, draw a card, then discard a card. Then if there are 15 or more artifact cards in your graveyard, target opponent loses. Yes, it's a lose 1. Ultimately all-seeing. 6 different converted mana costs are revealed this way. The player loses the game. You deal damage to your opponent, and you may reveal your hand. Happily Ever After. What's this one? Life total is greater than or equal to the starting life table. You win the game. In addition to, at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 5 colours among permanents you control, there are 6 more card types among permanents you control, and or. Okay. And then we have a Ponies the Galloping. Oh, if you control Applejack, Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, Rainbow Dash and Rarity, everybody wins. Okay, everybody gets a pony. Thassa's Oracle. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. Okay. This is your devotion to blue. Cinematic Phoenix. If you tap 6 legendary creatures using this ability, you win the game. Not legal. Except if your name's printed at the bottom. Angel of Destiny. 3 and 2 white is 15 life more than your starting life total. Each player, Angel of Destiny attack this turn, loses a game. Okay. And top deck the halls, which is a Happy Holidays card. Like, it's got a silver border on it. Beginning of upkeep, if you control 12 or more decorated permanents, you win the game. Okay, so we're moving now well into the 2020s. Strixhaven Stadium. 10 or more point counters on it, remove them all, and that player loses the game. And so whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, then a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, remove a pointer counter. Okay. And you can also put, when you tap it for colourless, it puts a pointer counter on it. Right. Vorpal Sword. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. Deck of many things. Put a creature card from any graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. When that creature dies, its owner loses the game. It's on the 20. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of upkeep, if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. Faithbound Judge, which is a flip card. Okay. Beginning of upkeep, put a judgment counter on Sinner's Judgment. Then, if there are 3 or more judgment counters on it, enchanted player loses the game. Okay. Here we go. Death Skewer consumes all. So on the flip side, Vessel of the all-consuming deals damage to the player. If it's dealt 10 or more damage to that player this turn, they lose the game. In a fountain, untap 15 tap creatures you control, you win the game. So you've seen several so far that reward you for playing a lot of creatures. There's another emblem one here where you control 20 or more wizards, you win the game. Ramesses. When a player loses the game, if they were attacked this turn by an assassin you controlled, you win the game. So that's an interesting assassin deck. Blue-black. Blue-black assassins. Infect and Death Touch as well as possible. Okay. Some interesting combos. All of the assassins, yes. Looks like a fun deck, doesn't it? Budget average deck. And yeah, of course you can use shapeshifters as well because they would count as an assassin. Form of the Approach of the Second Sun from Unfinity. Okay. Fall off your head, exile them all. And you draw yourself, you win the game. Okay. Oh, we got some of these ones. Target player with exactly 7 poison counters loses the game. Players can't lose the game or win the game. At the beginning of your upkeep, if each player has an empty library, sacrifice Platinum Persecutor and you win the game. Frodo, Sorin's Bane. Creature just comes to play. That player loses the game if the ring has tempted you 4 or more times this game, otherwise the ring tempts you. Jen, Confinder of Ages. Unknown Event. When Jen attacks, if its power is 30 or greater, you win the game. Gallifrey Stands. If you control 13 or more doctors, you win the game. Okay. And then the Millennium Cannon. When there are 1,000 or more time counters on the Millennium Cannon, the sacrifice in each opponent loses the game. When you untap one or more permanents during your untap, put that many time cancels on the Millennium Calendar, 2 tap, double the number of time cancels on the Millennium Calendar. Okay, 8 cards, 2024, Luck Bobblehead. Which is only six, exactly 7 times you win the game. Oh, another Assassin. Whenever SEO deals combat damage to a player, you may pay Wooburg. If that player has 10 or less life, when you do that, player loses a game. Maximum hand size is 20. Whenever 20-toed toad attacks, you win the game if there are 20 or more counters on it and you have 20 or more cards in hand. What's this one? You cast in your land or cast a spell, it shows a mana value with 1 or more uncrossed digits on the chosen number. Did you cross that, win the game? Okay. Snap Judgment. Who wins the game also wins the match. Wowzer the Aspirational. If you have an NG counter, control a blood, a clue, a food, a map, a power stone, and a treasure on the monarch, and you have a city's blessing and the initiative, you win the game. Central Elevator Promising Stairs. Is this the first split card that we've seen this? I think so. We've seen double face cards, but yeah, not seen it on a split card yet. You win the game if there are 8 or more different names among unlocked doors in rooms you control. Okay, and the Countering Runner. Spell opponent goes countered by a spell opponent. The Countering Runner deals 2 psychic damage to that player. Psychic damage does not cause loss of life, but if a player has been dealt 20 psychic damage, loses the game. Wow. You know, just as well we're getting near to the end of the video. I don't know if that's coming through. I've got someone having new windows installed across the way, and they got the drill out. Okay, so there we have it. So that was pretty interesting. I must admit, out of the sort of win conditions, yeah, it's definitely the ones in the middle that I probably have most. I enjoy the most. It got a bit silly towards the end, I suppose. Let's not go there. It is a silly place. But yeah, I was trying to find, what was it? Where's one of mine? It's probably around this period, maybe. Helix Pinnacle. I don't know, something about that one. Don't know what it is. So there we go. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.